Okay, so we are live. In this stream, I'm going to port my Yabai script to Rust. So this is a Lua script, and it does some heuristics to select the next window. So the reason why I am rewriting it in Rust is, for example, now I have two windows, and then if I do a time on this script, which is going to switch to the last window. I need a widget. It is going to take 50 milliseconds. Wait, let me repeat this. Oh, okay. So if I repeat this several times, it's going to be slower later on. So 200 milliseconds is noticeable. If I manually switch my window, I'm going to feel it, especially if I'm hopping around. So I'm going to create a new Rust project. It's going to call it okay. And the first thing after I create a new Rust project is to add anyhow. Now we have a Rust project. And these are the two windows I have. Let's run it to see that everything works great. So third thing I would do is I would put them side by side. This line, and then what I would do is I would translate them line by line. Okay. This is a line that makes it possible so I can get local packages. As we see here, I have this package called command, which is going to import this file basically. It's going to call a command and read from its results. Okay. But basically, we have that in Rust, so I'm not going to make this file. The other file is notification. This is a function that would, because I'm on Mac OS, it will run Apple script to display a notification with title and subtitle if there is any. Okay, so I will port this first. And the way I would do it is I will write closures, because you don't need to type the closure. So I would say content okay, and then as we see here, we have this local variable to run. So basically I'm going to copy it and throw it into a format. So obviously it doesn't work, but I'm going to turn it into there's no backslash, I don't need R. I'm going to turn it into a normal string. Actually, let me think about it. Yeah, so here I'm using quotes, therefore I really need the different string. Yes. And then here now we will have the same here as we have here. Actually, let me just rotate it. Okay. So now I'm going to do these checks just like I have in the Lua file. So here is checking whether the title is new or not. In Python, in Rust, it doesn't really exist. So I need to do an if-let. So here I need it to be mutable. To run equals to run. I really don't need this. I just need plus equals. Where's title? And then the title itself. Holy crap. Okay. And then if we have subtitles, we do the same thing. Maybe Copilot is correct. I don't know. Obviously it isn't. So we have a string here. Okay, I have to do that. And this we will solve later. But then now I realize that here we have command.run. We don't really have command.run. So in Rust we have, in the standard library you have command. I'm gonna pull it out. Okay, this is the handy one, and we need to give it args, which is like a whole a list of strings. Therefore, actually what we need is this command and the arguments. So obviously here the command would be OSA script, but the first argument would be this one, and the second argument would be everything I include in the single quote. So therefore, I shouldn't call it to run. I should call it arg2, and it shouldn't have OSA script. But then I'm going to create this. And then this will match our command. So here, let me just like run it to the end, and then like here, because we are writing a script, we don't really need to handle error. Actually, it's just going to handle the error. So here, Rust doesn't really know what title is and what subtitle is, so it's complaining. But when we have the actual function call, it's going to go away. So here I was using single quotes to put my run argument together and throw it just into a shell. But here I am just omitting the single quotes. So let's try it actually by calling this display closure. We're going to do display, and then we need content, title, and subtitle. So content is going to be test, I guess, and title is let's call it title, and then we don't have a subtitle. Okay, so I shouldn't put the tuple here. And then it's going to expect this or unwrap. So display is here and it is a function, but Rust doesn't know what thing it should return. Also, it doesn't know how we are going to use this question mark. So I'm going to import anyhow. And then actually I can return results for the whole main function. And it still doesn't know that this closure would return a result, so I'm going to annotate that. And then it still doesn't know that subtitle is going to be an option of string. like here. Okay. So actually I need to return and okay. I think that is the problem. And here, because it doesn't know what subtitle is, it's freaking out. So let me just give it something. I think I made a typo. Okay. So here it's complaining that we don't really care about the command variable, because the way this string of method calls works is that this one creates a command, and these ones takes multiple reference of command and returns multiple reference of command. Except this one output, it returns a child. It returns the output of the program. And then what this function returns is the run result. So let's just do that as well. I'm going to use the question mark to convert it. Actually, I'm just going to return whatever this thing returns. Okay, then everything's good. So let's see what this thing returns. It returns a result of output or error. Okay, we don't actually know. This is an IO error. Good. So now let's do cargo run. And I don't see anything. Okay, so it did happen, but because of the streaming setup, it got hidden. So I will say that it's working. Let's see. So this is not a Git repository. Okay, this is the wrong window to run that. Diff. This is the correct one. So we have this main.rs and the target. Git ignore, I should say. So let me throw this back to the other monitor and commit the scene. Let's see. I don't have a remote yet. I will set up later. So now I do have this display function. Which is the notification I require. So later here you see that I will use noti.display, but in the Rust program I will just use display. So here I have some hard-coded strings. I am just going to put them, actually I will just put them inside here for the sake of simplicity. And also in Lua we could use single quote for strings, but in Rust I need to use a double quote. They also need to be keywords before them. Actually, I regret. Let's just call them that, so I don't need to specify the type. this is also one thing you could do when you're scripting. So we have this function getLast. Before we go into the madness in the Lua script, I think we go to the global scope. So here in the global scope, I get the input arguments into args. Here we can just do that. And we check the first argument, next or last. If they are something, then we have this result variable. Otherwise, the result variable is something else. So in Rust, probably we are going to take the whole thing as the whole statement as an assignment. So here we have this cycle function and this info function. I'm going to declare them first. And then I can just do the logic. Let me actually just do this. We get the arguments. Here we can use a match instead of an if. This is like the first argument. You can match two things at once using the OR, I think. And if it's info, we call info. So here in Rust, we have to actually, I need to convert it to a vector of string first. Yes. Let me look it up. So what I should do instead is collect. Okay. And then they're unhappy about the pattern matching because I have a stir. So now it's complaining about cycle and info being unknown. Let's look at them actually. And then if the result is not nothing, then display the result, which is okay, I guess. we're going to have result as the content, Yabai as the title, and script failed as the subtitle. Okay, so now we can go into the cycle and info. Okay, I just use a normal search. So here, cycle gets the IDs of windows here on this space. I think that Yabai calls it space. In this window, we have two spaces. This one, in this space, we have two windows. This one and this one. And the ID would be the number of the exact window we are focusing. So we convert all the, actually this will be just one string. We're going to get all the words in the string into a list. That's why Lua is crazy, but it worked for me. Okay, so let's do this in Rust. So the input is nothing, and it's going to be a closure. We're going to get the IDs. It's going to be Yabai, and the args will be the first argument is -m, and then we have query -windows, and then we need to pipe the outcome to JQ, which I think we cannot do here. So instead, I think I will use bash to run this instead. I guess I would just man bash and see its options. So I guess I should use -c. Yes. Then I would say that we can just do this and use it as the command replacement. Like here we have the command which runs a string. So we can have the same thing. By running everything in bash. And then we don't actually care about the pattern because we want to read stuff out. So here in Rust, we're just going to create this bash first thing is going to be C. The second thing is going to be the command. Actually, this is the thing it returns. And here, we can get back to use the command for display, but I guess we will not. Okay, so now we can save some effort in converting the scripts. So instead, I'm going to just call the command closure we just made and give it the command, which is still going to be a raw string. Actually, I'm going to copy it. So this should work. This would be the Yabai command -m query -window -space pipe. Without a quote, pipe into JQ, also without a quote, and this is the thing inside of JQ. This should be a reference to stir, and then it could return error, so question mark. And the ID would be the other command run, which is this thing. Let me just copy everything. And as we know that actually we don't need a raw string. Here, instead of quotes, don't really need quotes. So this will be the change we need. Okay. And then it's going to need to be parsed to a number. Now you can see the difficulty of using closures because we don't have types. So what does command do? It returns a command, which means we forgot to run it. Now it should return the result, but apparently we are not returning the correct output from this closure, so let's just do that. Now we have Rust wiggly on the parse because Rust doesn't know we need a number, which is fine. It's going to be solved later. Now this Lua script is parsing the ID list to find all the strings, but in reality we don't need this regular expression here because we have normal split function in Rust. So let me actually try to run this script and see what it outputs. I need to change it to the actual executables. It returns everything in different lines. So we just need split lines. Which means we have ID list, IDs dot split. This should be, IDs should be output, and then we need to convert it to actually string, which means we can, it's going to probably going to be sender out, and that would probably be what we want though. So sender out, and what is this sender out? This is a vector of U8. So we need to decode it into Unicode. This is weird, we don't actually have this function. As a vector of U8, I think we can use into. Or maybe it's parse actually. No. Okay. So I'm guessing that it would be easier to do a string from, actually. And let me put everything inside of curly brackets. Yes, it's string from. It's going to be from UTF-8. And it's going to be output dot sender out. This is not an anyhow okay, so we will need to add a question mark and wrap it in okay again. Okay. So now we can see that IDs is actually a string. ID is also before parsing is also a string. So ID list is going to be split white space, because new lines are white spaces. We are using a script, so this is an iterator, and ID list, what we want from ID list is just a list of numbers. So we are going to, instead of calling to number, we're going to parse them using a map, and then we are going to call, actually I'm not very sure, just do str.parse, string.parse, and then we collect, because we don't know what kind of thing it is. We also need to, holy crap, what is that autocomplete? Okay, and then yes, so instead of doing collect here, because .parse actually returns results, I think what we want is we want to collect them into result and back. Okay, and then we can use the question mark on the result that's got collected. So now it's calling sort on the table, on the ID list. Excuse me. It's going to need to be mutable. Yes. Okay. And then it's going to actually use the args in order to decide whether we have next or whether we have get text or get last. So here we realize the importance that we use closures. Where is my args? So args is down here, and all we need to do is move it up in order to just use it. So notice that args would be immutable. It would only be read from instead of writing to, which means we can just freely use it from our closures. So here, after we have the ID list, we will have target, and it's going to be related to args1. Actually, we don't need a ampersand, I believe. If it's next, then we call this function, we call this closure actually get next. Otherwise we call get last. After we have the target, we'll call the command.run on it, which means so actually we named this function run in Lua. Let's keep it consistent. Where did it come from? So it has Yabai -m. And then it's ampersand here. And then we just return this. Brilliant. Now we need to implement get next and get last. Oh, okay, I forgot this. Just do a normal search. So apparently get next and get last need ID and ID list, which means if I want to use ID and ID list, I'd better make another closure inside of this closure. So for the sake of simplicity, let's just do that. Get next. It's going to be another closure, which doesn't take anything, by the way. And it's going to do if ID equals ID list number of ID list. This is a weird way in Lua to say the last element in ID list. The last, and this thing returns options, so instead of unwrapping it, I will wrap this instead. In Lua, list starts with 1, but in Rust it starts with 0. So if it is not, basically if we are not the last element. So here we're doing circular shift, and I thought it would be nice if we use the backdack. And in backdack, we can just circularly shift it. But then that will mean that we cannot actually call functions because we will mutate them. Actually, it will be fine. So let me show you how to do this. ID list should be a vector of something. So I don't remember the function name of the vector shift. I'm going to search for it. Basically, vector is a ring buffer. So it's easy to move its tail to its head. Let me put documentation here so you know. We have these things. It's called rotate instead of shift. So rotates it to the left, and I think rotating to the left would give us a bigger IDE, which should be next. rotating to the right should give us a smaller ID. So here, probably we should just rotate to the left. For 1. But also we need to find our current ID. So let's use the index for that. Because we are sorted, we could use binary search. We are just going to search for our ID. And if we fail, we're going to return RD. So after we rotate left, we return the element at the same index of ID list. Weirdly, this question mark doesn't give us an error, so I guess that's also because this will also return a result. Get last will be the same thing basically. Except we'll rotate right. Okay. So VACDAC cannot be sorted, it seems like. Let's see if it's true. So for efficient sorting, you want to use make contiguous. You need to make it contiguous and then sort it. I guess it makes sense. So make contiguous returns a mutable slice, and then the sort method is actually implemented on the slide. Actually makes sense. And let's verify that binary search does return usize. This is a weird coincidence because the get method here, like the indexing method, seems to return the same thing from the question mark. It probably just panics, to be honest. So we are saying that we are mutating get next and get last. I don't really understand that, but let's just tuck the mute here. And then it seems like Rust is happy with this cycle function. Therefore, we can move on and implement the other one. Notice how much easier it is to do the rotation in Rust in terms of like brain power. because we have a ring buffer built into the standard library. So that was cycle function. Now let's implement the info function, or rather it's a closure. It takes no arguments, and actually let's read the code first. It's going to get the list of apps I have, and then it's going to append each app on it's going to append each app with their brief names. So if I press hyper I will get this nice notification, which is what this function should do. Here we have Alacrity as the app names, but for example, if I open something that is weird, then and I press hyper I, it's going to truncate and only leave the first word of the name. So I think we can just briefly do something very similar. Don't need this quote. We also don't need these. And these neither. Okay, this will be our run. We have this app string, so we don't need to concatenate strings here. We can first make a vector and then collect it. This apps is a string, and what it probably does is it's going to, like earlier, it's probably going to return all the apps in different lines. Yes, it returns apps in different lines. And interestingly, they are double quoted. So because I don't want to introduce regex as my dependency, I want to split, I first want to split using new lines, but then I want to split using quotes. So I get the second split. I can actually get the lines using this function. I didn't because I thought there might be some spaces. And for each line, we do a transformation. Actually, split n would be very good. So we are going to split it into 3 parts. the pattern would be a double quote. So here maybe I just escape it. It thinks that it is unreachable for some reason. Okay, that was an error on the editor. We split everything, and then we get the a second. So 0 is the first, 1 is the second, which means we are going to get a stir from these lines. And then here, so far, we should have a vector of stir, so we can call collect. So far, the editor is happy. Okay, let's see what happens next. What happens next? So we have these. Is that we run another command to get the space ID. But also here, notice that we use this star L, which I don't really remember what it means. So instead of guessing, I will run this command and see the output to see how I parse it in Rust. Let's run this. I don't actually know why I had that regular expression, but it seems like it's just giving out a number. So this is the 9th space on my monitor. So I guess I just do a question mark to convert it to string and parse it into an integer. The other command is similar. Except that the JQ command is different. And we also pipe it into word count for whatever reason. So word count is a program that we need to invoke, which might take some time. Maybe we should do it in Rust instead. But this info function doesn't need to be very fast. Where is it? This info closure doesn't need to be very fast because I am kind of expecting it to take some time when it collects the information. Let me format it. Everything is still okay. For some reason, it's not complaining about the parse. Actually, I need to add question marks here as well because parse can fail. And then it returns the display of the message. The first argument is appster, and then a combination of space ID, which means space ID doesn't need to be parsed because we are just getting the string anyways. And the window number is also not needed to be parsed. Instead, I think they need to be stripped. Or trim, as they are called in Rust. Display doesn't return error at all, so we're going to wrap it in okay. Actually, I don't think display doesn't return error. It's just the type of error is not correct. Also, it's somehow expecting some from here. And this is the point when I realize I always supply subtitle and titles. So I should just remove the sum and mandate subtitles. Which means I can greatly simplify this function. I can just move these up, but also these. And then we need to find all the sum. So a good way to do it is go to all the errors and get rid of the sum. I think this is a stupid error, to be honest. To mitigate this, we need to somehow make the call happen earlier. So anyways, this call is now correct. In order to make it use stir, I think we can force it to become stirs, and then it will be happy. Result is a string, so we can coerce it. We can use a reference and then coerce it into a ref stir. Info actually returns a result of a result, which is the exact thing I was saying, that this display function doesn't return an anyhow result. So we need a question mark here. It's still incompatible. So we get a process output. Now I realize that display should use the run closure, but it will be easy to migrate. This is all I need, I think. So I can move all of these and move it to the argument of run. And I can get rid of these. So we have some mangled errors. Because run returns anyhow error. I think this is because this is an option. Up to here. So it's suggesting that this is not a vector, it's not an iterator of strings. Which means it is probably error, a result, because we don't know what these things return. Actually, it returns just a stir. It's saying that result cannot be built from an iterator of stir. But we don't want the result, we just want a string. And this fixes everything, except here. now this, because display is an anyhow result, display returns an anyhow result, we also don't need a OK. Not equal cannot be applied to a result of string. So result is actually a string. I forgot that both cycle and info can return error. So I should just propagate the error up. Now Rust is happy with this function call, this method call or closure. Here, ID parse from stir is not satisfied. This is Rust not knowing the type of ID. So if I look at here, it has no idea what ID is. I need to specify it because I know that window IDs are non-negative integers. I just put USID here. Here, parse it is saying that we're trying to collect all these result with parsing errors into this anyhow result, which is a type alias that has anyhow error to its right. So we just need to change what it actually needs to collect to. So another way to do it would be to move this vectag to its type definition, but I don't want to do that because it makes it even longer, I think. The question mark operator doesn't work here exactly because we need to return OK. And same thing here. Result of useSize doesn't implement format. So this target seems to be wrong. Because these two closures can also return error. And because they can return error, we need to annotate what kind of error they return. So Copilot is correct here. This is what I want. Binary search doesn't return something that can be called into and changed to anyhow result, anyhow error, because it's in useSize. So here, because I know that this binary search has to succeed because the current window ID has to be in the list of IDs. What I should do instead is I should just unwrap them. To be honest, I should have unwrapped them in the first place. Okay, now we have the problem of mutably borrowing something twice, and also temporary value drops. So in order to solve this, the better way would be to just take anything. This will make this function take more stuff. And then it's only allowed in functions. So I have to extract it now. I don't really want to do that. But so what I should do instead would be I should assign this to a variable. But it still doesn't live long enough. So one solution to this kind of problem is to always pass in on the data. Here we're trying to write a script, so we don't really care about performance. So we should just assume that command is a string. In order to persuade it that we are passing it strings, we need to change all the other recursions. It's still not happy. Because it thinks that we are passing a stir, but actually we're passing a string. So what we should do is just to annotate it. Idealist is borrowed mutably twice. Apparently Rust doesn't like us using two closure calls that mutate the same variable in an if statement. Unfortunately, I think that would force us to inline these two closures. And then I probably messed up some formatting. Okay. This also has the problem with dropping So we just convert it to string. It is used here. And then we have the same issue here and here. So appster doesn't live long enough, which means we should just pass in strings to display. Strings everywhere. Now we have the easiest error, which is we don't have the correct argument to this program. So we use the anyhow val. And here Clippy is unhappy with us. We can also try some other stuff like it's saying that the split end doesn't make any sense because split returns an iterator, and we are only taking the second item, so it's not going to split more than one time anyways, more than 2 times anyways. And then it's unhappy with JQ and Yabai being capital cased. So I guess I just rename them. Actually, I shouldn't just rename them. I should do a find replace because they still haven't fixed this bug where they don't change the names in the variable content. In the format strings, but let's just do it properly and use const. Okay, now we have 0 errors. But then the problem would be, does this run at all? So let's recheck these. I think we're good. Okay. I'm going to throw this window away and see whether it runs. It should panic because we don't have enough arguments, yes, because we are a script. I don't really want to handle that. Part passing the wrong arguments, it's going to show us this error message. If I do next, it says invalid digit finding string, which means that we have a problem with our parse. Which is probably here. And it's propagated up. In both cases, it's going to be propagated up. So let's just unwrap it. Unwrap off one of them to narrow down the. So it's the first one. Probably what I need to do is I need to strip it. And then it successfully ran. This one I've already split the white space. So it doesn't have this problem. So the problem would be that whatever run returns contains new line characters, and dot parse doesn't like that. So this does work, and last also works. Let me open 3 windows. So this one should have the largest number. This one should have the median number. So if I do last, I should see the editor. Correct. If I do next, I should see the empty one. Also correct. And if I do info, it shows here. Let me open up system preferences and run this again. It doesn't catch the system preferences, which is weird. So let me investigate this. This should be the apps. So I should just try this. This is Yabai. Weirdly, it doesn't catch this one. Maybe this is a Yabai issue instead. So let's use the Lua one, and it does work, which means this is broken. Let me close this one actually. So it didn't do anything, is what happened. First, I need to make sure that this info function is called. And then this run method actually does something. How do I know whether the run method actually does anything? So I just print it out, I guess. It got alacrity, and system preferences, and a new line. Which is correct. Which means that in the splitting, it's wrong. This is when I realize that first, I need a white space between them. And second, I need to get the first one from here. But now I think about it, actually this is nice to have the full name. So maybe I keep it, but I join it with semicolons. Now it couldn't join because join is not implemented for iterated of stir, so I need to collect it into a vector first, and then it needs to add the annotation. So now it actually has the semicolon. But then what it means is display doesn't do what it's supposed to do. So I should go into display, look at this. There is a high probability that this command is messed up. So let's try this. So immediately I noticed that I'm missing single quotes at the beginning and the end. It's easy to fix. This is all I need to fix it. But the number of windows calculation is wrong. This is actually weird because the calculation is done by word count. So I am actually doing something wrong. This is an incorrect command. And if I look at here, it should be windows instead of spaces. So I'm going to fix it. Now it's correct. So now what I'm gonna do is I will set up a remote. I will publish this to crates.io so I don't lose it, and then I would actually download it from crates.io. So I can just use this script. But before that, let me do some benchmark. It should be called Yabai switch. Next. And I should have 3 windows. And do it 6 times. It is slower than the Lua script, unfortunately. Okay. Let me try again. So why is this slow? I'm not sure. But because it's working, I'm going to commit this. So let me see the diff. Basically everything's new. Let me set up the remote actually. Okay, so it's up. So if we look at this closely, we'll realize that a big problem is at first it was fast. This is the same in Lua. But then when we run it again, it becomes slow. Probably because Yabai's blocking, Yabai's single threaded, something like that. So it's Yabai's fault. Which means what we could do is we could reduce the cost to Yabai. But then it will require JSON parsing, I'm guessing. In cycle, we call Yabai twice. The first time we called it with to query the windows, the windows in this space. The second time we call it to query the ID. So if I call it manually, I get a JSON. And one of the attributes is topmost. It's false, 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 false. Okay, let me search for true. Can move, can resize, has focus. So has focus is the one that matters. I am thinking about whether I should add the JSON library I could make structs in CRD and just use CRD to very easily deserialize this, but that would make my app big, which in turn makes it slower, but it's still going to be very fast. So let me pull in cd.json. Actually, before that, I should test the time used for every single step. So let me add a global variable. So compile is correct. And let me make a closure. It's going to print it should take some sort of tag, I guess. Let me also make a checkpoint. Minus start and checkpoint minus and now minus checkpoint. So this can just be now. time duration doesn't implement format, so I need to convert it to I think microseconds would be good. No, not millisecond. Thank you, not millisecond. How do I type mu? Let's just type u. So let me print time use here with the run assist tag. Right. This is local. And then that will make everything require mutability, as always. Okay, let me just get rid of this checkpoint thing because it's going to be it's going to be hard. I think. Okay. Time used to run and this is display. Let's print time used to start immediately. And then after we here we just do IDs. This we do ID. This thing would take literally no time. This is target. And then this is what we will run. When it returns though, it's going to have it's going to go back down here. Okay, this is our crappy benchmark. So let's do cargo build release. Okay, very nice. So we have it took 12 microseconds to start from to execute from start to the first run, and then it took 20 microseconds to get the IDs, 20 for the run to this is basically the same thing. Like 18 microseconds, microseconds to get the second ID, and another 12 microseconds to run. Okay, so basically the cost to get the ID is 18 microseconds, which is obviously acceptable, but here it's different. This is like 160 microseconds just to get IDs, and then another 160 microseconds to get a run. No, 160 microseconds to get IDs, and then this is 80 microseconds to get a run, I think. Yes. Get ID instead of IDs. So this is 80 microseconds, which brings it already up to 220 in total. And then running it only took 8 microseconds. Okay, so this was fast. Where is it? This is how Luajit does. It's also just about 200 milliseconds. And this one, it didn't take that much time for it to do the microsec to do the ID actually. So where did we use up the time? In between, like this is only 23 microsecond, yes. I think it would definitely be faster if we parse the JSON ourselves. If I'm correct. Yes, this took like 60 milliseconds. So I would say like it does approximately the same as the Lua script. But another thing that is important is its size. So currently it's 600K. And Luajit is smaller. Wait, is it smaller? Yes, LuaJIT is smaller than this. But the difference is not huge, so it shouldn't be a problem. Although we could like give a try to use LTO, but that would make the compilation much slower. I don't remember how to enable it though. Here. Okay. Let's build again. Yes, the compilation is so slow. Did it get faster? Nope. It's still just about the same speed. So I am going to parse the JSON. Which means I need to pull up a CRD.json page, I think. Actually, I don't need to because I can define the schema. Although that will make that will probably just make the whole binary very big. Let's see how big it got after LTO. It only got a little bit smaller. So 500K for the binary. Now we're going to pull in some infamously big stuff. Oh, CRD. Oops. Oh, it doesn't like that. I thought you can add multiple stuff. Cargo is not so fast. I like it. So I really need to restart the LSP. Derive, debug, I don't really care. Deserialize, and I need to import them. The struct name is, I don't know. I guess it's called window. Window info, okay. It has an ID. Does it matter? Probably. PID doesn't matter. Title. This could make our info better, but currently I don't care. And space level. Opacity. I don't care about these, to be honest. Visible topmost. There is one. It has focus. Right. This one is the important one. And this needs to be what? Oh, so I need to add CRD with the derive. Okay. I was for Except we need kebab paste. Yes. And I guess this is all we care about. So one thing we could do is we could just avoid running the command inside of bash. So instead of yes, we should just directly use the command. Actually, no. I will make another function that would take this and these. So it's going to be the command and the args. And then I move them here. But instead I call raw run. And the args I get from here. Is this okay? No, it is not. We have lifetime issues. I guess we just get the result. And we also need a type annotation. Weirdly, command is still borrowed for some reason. I don't think this is right, to be honest. Okay. I guess I make everything owned. And it's still complaining, so I should give it strings. Okay, now it's happy, but the args is forced to be a string of 2, which is bad, so I make it back. Okay. Maybe this is very unnecessary. And then here I do have run, so I guess I convert it to use run raw. So raw run. And this should take and the second argument should be a bunch of strings in a vector. So it should be this string, but split in white space and collect it. A string cannot be built. So raw run should take a string and a vector of string. This is a string, and this should be a vector of string. So I guess I need to map every string, every stir to string. Yes. Then this is annoying, so I think I would make a closure to use. I don't actually need this. Because I should parse the IDs into using cd.json. So instead, I should do this. ID list equals IDs. but not splitting with white space, whatever. But using CRD JSON from stir. And it's not going to be an ID list. Instead, it's going to be a vector of window info. But I think I want another variable to do that. So let me do this. Let's call this row IDs, then call these IDs. And then I need to give them a type. So vector of window info. And the ID list should be mapped from IDs. ID should be the ID that has focus true. So it should be ID stuff find contains this boolean. I don't see a find. It must be called something else. It's impossible that there isn't one. Or is it implemented on the either? So one thing I could do is I could specify that I don't really need to remap them. Which would mean that I need to implement partial OR for window info. Oh, I don't need to somehow. self.id.com other.id. And then it also needs to be ick. Great. This needs to be a vectag instead of vec. This will be still called ID list. So first I will sort it. It should be able to sort. And then I would just be able to find I should find the maybe I do a filter. Okay. So I should do a binary search by, and I should use this is going to be window info dot ID. It's not ID, it has focus. What are we looking at? It should return ordering code that indicates, so we cannot actually do binary search. We can only just do find. And we can not really do, actually we can do iter and then enumerate. This would be the index. The first one will be the index. And find the returns an option of the item. So it should return actually I want to do a find map. Then returns of, so it should be and then is the there, then some. Yes, this says that if the window has focus, then we return some I, where I is the index. Actually I should rename them. If the window has focus, then we return some index. So we get the index. If we don't get the index, we do 0. Yes. And we unwrap. Actually, we don't need to. This is kind of weird because yes, unwrap or should be the one used. So index is going to be U size. Aha. We have some annoying arguments. And then we need to push into it, the target. This is U size, so I need to convert it to a string. Rather, I should do it here. I am implementing ORD explicitly, but have derived partial ORD. So what should I do instead? I should just derive everything. Okay, fine. So I guess bool is also ORD. Both U size and bool are ORD. So I can just derive anything. Crazy. Okay. Now we are using ZeroDJSON to deserialize the output from Yabai plus this command, and we are not using the bash wrapper. Let's see whether we have some performance difference or whatnot, or whether it runs at all. Yes, now it compiles really slowly. So let's do the prepare the time command. It has no such file or directory. Which is because the Yabai string has a space in it, presumably. I'm going to remove that. Oh, and then I need to rebuild. Okay. We have some faster speed, it seems like. So JQ, it's not JQ's fault, I think. JQ isn't very fast. But also not calling it twice improved the performance. Sometimes we have 20 milliseconds. So one thing that doesn't seem right is that it didn't switch back to this window, which is because we have 4 windows, and after switching 6 times, it doesn't come back. Okay, so it is a correct behavior. To get a better timing, we need to move the time print up to the raw run. I think. Somehow we still used a run. No, we didn't. So Rust itself doesn't take much time as before. We got the ID in 16 milliseconds, which is very fast. We got a target in several microseconds. And then we started calling run, and we got a result quite a while later. Okay, so this is the fast case. For the slow case, it took us 120 milliseconds to get the IDs. And it took us only 10 milliseconds to run Yabai. So this means that whatever we do in Rust doesn't matter at all. At least that's what it seems to be. So this is quite reproducible. We sometimes get extremely fast window switching, sometimes get quite a bit slower. Let's make another test using last. This one's about the same. Half of them are very fast, the other half are slower. And the reason for the slowness is always because of it takes a long time to get IDs. So it would be nice to, if we could cache that using a daemon, but that would be way too complicated. I guess I will call it a day. Remove this and then just follow trouble to delete all the unnecessary prints. Okay, so now we are clean. Technically, we should be also very slightly faster. But I don't think we need to care about that. After deleting all the stuff, I want to verify that it still works. And the performance characteristics is also about the same. So I will call that a win. Is it 9x faster? Yes, it kind of is. And finally, I will publish this. So it doesn't like it not having description, license file, documentation, homepage, or directory. It has to have description and license. Somehow my autocomplete is bad. Are they happy with this? So this is not clean, but also it doesn't have the repository info. Let me just add that. What else? Description, license, documentation, homepage or directory. Repository, yes. Okay, now it should be published, so I should be able to just install this. Because I have SC cache set up, it compiles quickly. Okay. And now we can have the same benchmark. But does it have it? Does it have it? Yes, it does. And it's somehow a little bit faster, 180 milliseconds, perhaps because it is a fresh build, I'm not sure. And the last thing to do would be to update my config and replace the luajit mentions. So I think I would still need to use absolute path here because the way Carabiner works, it is very primitive. So it's tilde slash this. Okay. And this is hyper-J. Let me try it. It does work. If I have 3 windows, it does cycle. And it does feel kind of snappy. Okay, I've already removed them. I still have some other shell script based. These are fine. Yes. So I guess I improved the time by about 200 milliseconds for half the time. For half of the time, I mean. But then for the other half of the time, it's still very slow. So I guess that's how we will conclude today. So back to the theme. This is a script. Writing the script was not very smooth because we had to deal with the type system. So some of the takeaways are use anyhow, return result for everything. Using closures might not be the good idea. I'm not sure, but it seems okay. And make the closures own everything they take. Like here, the command is a string and the args is a vector of string. This makes everything so easy. Don't try to use lifetime or something like that. But on the other hand, you could say that this is how you write spaghetti code. Yeah. And nice tricks using CAD. And before that, CAD JSON to nicely parse JSON very easy. Okay, so that's it. Maybe we'll see you sometime. I don't know.